Okay, where should we go first? Maybe we'll go farm some... Oh, hey, little guys! Aw, little chicketies! Hey, little guys, it's me, your mama, Game & Chick. I can't believe they bit me! Their own mama! They're lucky I don't turn their butts into a chicken nugget. Wait, what the heck is going on over here? Either this is a glitch, or these guys really need to get a room. Guys, you're welcome to use my house. Just kick my sister Yona out first. She hasn't paid her rent anyways.
Let's go!
Hello again, my chicketies. Game & Chick is back with yet another review. Before we get started, I would like to sound like a broken record for a second and give a big thank you to Square-Enix for providing me with a review code to make this review possible, as well as providing me with other games such as Balan Wonderworld, Outriders, and SaGa Frontier Remastered. Thank you so much! So with that having been said, let us begin. Nier Replicant is an action-adventure RPG developed by Toy Logic and published by Square-Enix. Being a semi-remake/remaster of the 2010 game Nier, Square-Enix and Toy Logic attempts to bring this title into the eyes of the current generation after the success of Nier Automata. But with all the improvements made over the original, does Replicant offer something that is a must-play for people that took the journey through Automata? Only one way to find out, so let's go! Story. As a plague known as the Black Scrawl begins to spread over the world, monsters known as Shades begin to pile up in numbers, putting all human inhabitants at risk of death or injury. One day, your sister Yona's cough gradually starts getting worse, and it's found out that she also has the Black Scrawl within her body, but there is no cure for it. Death appears to be imminent. However, Nier, the older brother of Yona, learns of a possible way to get a cure for the Scrawl, but it won't be an easy task to complete. Together with a magical tome known as Grimoire Weiss, Nier must venture off on a journey to find and search for the sealed verses, which just might be the key to saving Yona's life, and maybe all of humanity itself. Gameplay. As already stated, Nier Replicant is a remake/remaster of the 2010 game Nier. However, it's not as clear-cut and dry as that. Now for disclaimer's sake, right off the bat, I need to clarify that I'm not the resident know-it-all when it comes to Nier history or its lore. As before this, my only real experience, like a lot of others, was with Nier Automata. But the basic rundown is summed up like this. The original game we received in the US dealt with an older Nier, who instead of being Yona's brother, was now her father, whereas the Japanese version, Nier Replicant, was with a younger version of Nier, now her brother instead of her father. So you got that? Well, alright then. So as you've already guessed, this is the Japanese version we're going to get to experience for the first time as we play as Yona's brother Nier, as we attempt to save the world and solve the mystery of the beings known as Shades, and learn more about the sealed verses and the key they hold to curing the Black Scrawl plague. As you start your game, you're greeted to the opening narrative set up for you that will start a domino effect and ultimately lead to you taking your long and dangerous journey. Your sister Yona has gotten very ill, and soon it is learned and confirmed that she is infected with the Black Scrawl, a disease that slowly eats away at your body and inevitably leads to your death. One evening as she's not feeling well, and you being the good big brother you are, try to keep her spirits high by telling her the story of the Lunar Tears flowers, that if found and sold, could not only make you both rich, but also bring in enough money to be able to buy medicine and be able to cure her. But maybe that wasn't such a good idea, as she took her brother's story to heart and went in search for it herself, all the way to the forsaken and dangerous place known as the Lost Shrine. Once coming to the realization that this is where Yona was heading after her recent disappearance, Nier rushes to the Lost Shrine, only to discover her unconscious body behind a magic barrier, surrounded by those damn evil pesky Shades. As you destroy the magic barrier to get to your sister, a magic book known as Grimoire Weiss wakes up from his slumber and tells you to stop beating him up.
For the love of all that is holy, would you please stop pounding me?
Oh my.
After telling you that you can't win without his help, Nier finally decides to take the book's power and use it to save his sister. Wait. Hold it! Before we continue, let me get off thought for a second. Doesn't Nier's attire as a kid look like Alphinaud from Final Fantasy XIV? He so does. Sorry guys, I know, I'll get back on topic. Let's continue. So you're probably wondering,
Okay, that's a really good backstory and all, but didn't you say that this was a gameplay section of the review? Not more story. Maybe your brain has the black scrawl.
hey now, be nice. Mentioning that part of the story is key, as Grimoire Vice plays a vital role to come when it comes to the combat department. Once Grimoire Vice is in your party, this opens up the combat more than it previously was. Before acquiring the book, your combat was squarely a hack-and-slash affair alternating between light and heavy attacks on your opponents. But now with the power of Vice at your disposal, you gain access to a plethora of magical abilities known as sealed verses. These verses allow you to use different magical abilities, such as Dark Blast, a magic that lets you fire projectiles like a machine gun and when held down, will act like homing missiles and attack multiple foes. Whereas abilities like Dark Lance will allow you to use magical spikes to throw into an opponent and when held, depending on your magic bar, can harness up to 8 different spikes at once to unleash on your enemy. It feels great slamming enemies back with force with this one. Definitely one of my go-tos during my playthrough. The combat in Nier Replicant might be a bit different than you were used to if you played through the original Nier, or even if you've played Nier Automata. This is because the combat system for the original Nier game was updated to try and be similar to the combat that people are used to from Automata. Albeit, it's not perfectly emulated, but it's an improvement over the original's clunky feel, so that's a win there. The combat in Nier Replicant to me is surprisingly deep for what it is, and offers up room for you as a player to force the type of character and playthrough that you yourself want to be, and not what the developers want you to be. Player choice is key. Throughout your playthrough, you will be able to switch to light and heavy weapons using your D-pad to switch from one-handed swords, two-handed heavy swords, and even spears. This allows you to put together light and heavy combos on the fly by mixing the power of your two-handed swords to uppercut your opponent in the air, followed by switching to a lighter weapon to continue your combination, before finishing off your opponent using one of your Dark Arts sealed verses, such as Dark Hand, to pummel your enemy with a melee magical spell. Now that sounds pretty sweet, doesn't it? It sure does, but that's not where the combat of this game ends. Nope. It gets even more in-depth by finding words hidden throughout the world. When equipped to your weapons or magical abilities themselves, these words will grant you boosts to not only item drop rate, but also high experience points, abilities costing less MP consumption, stronger attacks, and many other items. While they don't make a huge difference at the end of the day, they do offer just enough variation to be able to make their presence known during a battle. As you become more accustomed to your combat and set out into the world itself, you'll notice that the main area you find yourself in, the open area plain section, is stitched together by various areas. Think of it like Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Field with interconnecting sections of the world, and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. Each area connected to the main hub area houses a different environment in which the story will take place in, from when Brother Nier is a kid, and then later on in a time skip becomes an adult. But we'll get to that in a little bit. The environments you come across that range from the Lost Shrine, Forest of Myth, Kingdom of Facade, and an old seaside town all have distinct designs and come to life in their own various ways. Forest of Myth, for instance, is dark and eerie, and has a mystique about it that makes you uncomfortable due to the way the townspeople interact with you, or rather, not interact with you. Seaside towns offer you a beautiful outlook over a beach and a lighthouse, with a variety of funny characters, like the old lighthouse lady who constantly berates you, and is just an all-around grouch.
You did this! Oh, what a terrible thing you are!
Why, you insolent crone!
And then a loud and obnoxious husband and wife who are constantly at each other's throats because he had the audacity to do something so unforgivable and so hideous that he cannot possibly be forgiven. What did he do exactly? Are you sure you want to know? Well,
I can't believe you didn't listen to me, and you ate my apple. Ugh, you are the absolute worst.
he had the gall to eat her apples. I know, right? He's scum of the earth.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence. Your stolen goods are now forfeit.
My point in mentioning these is simple. When you're not in combat, you're enthralled by the characters that inhabit this world, even outside of the main cast. What's left of this dying world seems alive, and it's amazing to walk around and see what everyone has to say. As your journey gets trickier and more dangerous, you develop relationships with other companions as well. These characters being Kaine, a foul-mouthed half-human, half-shade woman who is a complete badass and doesn't take anyone's crap, friend or foe. She was an absolute riot to listen to my entire playthrough, because she's a no-nonsense type of person who gets straight to the point in everything she does. Then we have her exact opposite, a young boy named Emile. Emile is the polar opposite of Kaine in every way. For every time she's cold, calculated and sadistic, Emil is kind, caring, and empathetic, and wants nothing more than to make people happy, save his friends, and for everyone to get along. You cannot play this game and tell me that you do not love this little guy, human form or monster form. He just gets more endearing and amazing as the story unfolds. Most people that I noticed so far with this game point out the combat as being the focal point of why they enjoyed the game and changes that were made to it from the original. But while to me, yeah, it's pretty good, I still say the crown jewel here is the characters and their development. The story of Nier Replicant is deep and explorative of not only our own humanity, but of how we perceive others. Nier is a basic orphan who only wants to take care of his sister. Kaine is an outcast and self-hermit. Emil is energetic and kind. Weiss is sophisticated and an ancient tome full of knowledge. Each of these characters at their core have different goals, different worldviews, different hardships, and you can feel each and every one of their conflicts during the game. You may not agree with all of them, but they are all relatable to some extent. And when that character goes through something that makes them angry, you get angry. When they're sad or feel an emotion, you too in turn feel this way because of how well written and performed these characters are, and the way they're fleshed out. One of my absolute favorite and emotional moments in the game was what I refer to as the father and son Kamehameha moment, in which Nier and Emil team up for one emotional power struggle against an enemy shade. And wow, the setup before the scene and mixed in with the music, it was absolutely phenomenal. I could go on about the characters for another hour, but I won't because I have some other things that I need to get to that involve more of the gameplay aspects, the world itself, and some things that I didn't like during my time with this game that made me feel a few aspects of it flow a little different than what I expected or wanted. But let's get back to the gameplay aspect of the game for just a moment, shall we? As mentioned previously, this game is very hack and slashy due to its heavy and light attack use, and its player freedom of choosing how to make your own combo attacks. However, this game also branches off into RPG territory, bullet hell, twin-stick shooter, and even side-scroller. The game transitions buttery smooth to each element. One minute you're hacking and slashing your way through barrages of enemies down a linear path, but literally 2 scenes later, it becomes a top-down bullet hell twin-stick shooter where you must use the right stick to aim your Dark Blast energy around to shoot with. But one of my favorite moments of these transitions, for a quick example, would be when you go to Seafront later in the game, after the time skip to when Nier becomes an adult. The ferryman, who ate all of his wife's apples in the previous quest you did, has come up missing, and now you must search an old shipwrecked ship. Immediately, entering it turns your game into a side-scrolling horror adventure game in which you must slowly move your way through a dark, damp, and creepy ship that seems haunted. The atmosphere is unsettling and creepy, and your only salvation of light is a little lantern that barely lights your way. It gets super creepy, but ultimately culminates in a gigantic kaiju level of shade fight. Holy crap! Is that you, Biolante? That's the first thing that popped into my head. But wait, how did I get access to that awesome segment? Well, that one was through the main story, but you can find similar content as you push through the game if you happen to take on the variety of side quests at your disposal. But be warned, not all of these are winners. A lot of the time you will end up with a fetch quest that makes you go from point A to point B and then back to point A again and gives you a relatively useless reward for wasting your time. But they're still pretty key to do if you want to get all the endings of the game, or to get materials and money needed to upgrade all your weapons. Yes, you heard me right. Every single weapon is upgradable in the game, as long as you farm or do quests related to getting the material you need to pay the blacksmith to do it for you. It's time consuming, but if you plan on doing multiple playthroughs, it's mandatory. I don't feel like a lot of people will be playing this for multiple playthroughs though, in all honesty, due to multiple factors involved, such as a lack of fast travel function, constant need for backtracking, and the use of game padding to stretch the game on longer than it needs to be. That's right, there is no fast travel. If you go all the way to Facade, which is a good 10-minute or more walk or run, you will have to go all the way back to your main hub village on foot. This can take you like an hour for one quest if you aren't fast enough, and I can see it turning people off big time. But thankfully, in the main plains area, you're able to tame a boar and make your journey a lot faster, so the trek isn't too bad. But wait, hold it, you shout to me. Padding? What do you mean? Oh boy, here we go. I've sang the game mostly praises, but I've got to be fair and balanced. There are quite a few things that bog down the game for me that either stop me from having fun or kind of put me to sleep at certain sections of the game. I've got my sword and shield ready to anticipate the oncoming attacks from Nier fans. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Skadoosh! While there are many aspects of this game that range from amazing to literal perfection, there are also segments of this game that just didn't mesh well with me. The first half of the game is absolutely perfect. It's so damn good. From the world building, variety of characters, their personality and traits, the way the story is structured with the quests, it's all done relatively well. But the second half of the game after Nier becomes an adult is where everything to me starts going wrong in both narrative and pacing. The story becomes more about bait-and-switch quests than it does about meaningful story elements. For example, Popola will ask you to go to a specific region of the game to look for a fragment you need in order to find the whereabouts of the villain known as Shadow Lord. But upon meeting her requirements and making your way back to her, she tells you, "Sorry bro, not yet, come back later." This involves you having to set out on another 1 to 2 hour journey before coming back to her again, hearing the same thing and going back out again. In what could be wrapped up in an hour or two is stretched out to 3 to 4 hours. If you know me and have read some previous reviews, you will know that I absolutely cannot stand game padding. It's the bane of my existence. Also bogged down is the pacing. In the first half of the game, you were constantly moving to find the answer to what you were seeking. But as an adult, it's more so, go here, stopgap. Go there, stopgap. It goes 1 to 100 miles per hour, and then suddenly stops you dead in your tracks by having you go back to the Forest of Myth and going through a 20 to 30 minute segment of just text on a black screen to make you solve a riddle. It serves a purpose and does have a meaning, but it's put in the wrong spot of the game, and I almost nearly fell asleep. I'm not even joking. The second time is in the manor, where you initially met Emil in the first half of the game. It's also a very boring tread. Going with Emil to find a cure for Kaine, you have to venture through the manor to its basement, but it's literally over an hour of going from room to room, maze to maze, puzzle to puzzle, of killing the same bad guys over and over in very tedious twin-stick fashion. It's one of the more lack of engaging segments of the entire game, and it's always a chore to play. Besides those sections of the game I felt were boring, I also had a bit of an issue with the emotional switch and baiting they had going on too. This game goes a little too anime heavy with the, "Oh my god, they died! Oh wait, never mind, they're okay" moments. So many times were you emotionally invested into a character's sacrifice or demise, such as being impaled or sliced, and it's a total "oh my god, no" moment. Only for it to be completely ruined, for them to be fine moments later, and then literally an hour later another scene plays out in a similar way, where that character once again dies, but is fine again moments later. I swear, in the second half of the story, Kaine becomes the Krillin of Nier Replicant, and it rubbed me the wrong way. It robs the player of any emotional investment they might have had. I still loved the characters, but it was just an overused trope. I was wondering if I was watching an episode of Naruto or something. Extra stuff. When you're all done with the game and happy with yourself, too bad you aren't done yet. You still have New Game Plus and the 4 other endings of the game you missed your first playthrough. In New Game Plus, obviously it carries over all your stats and gear from your first playthrough, but now you have a chance at completing all side quests, weapon upgrades, finding all weapons, and so forth to be able to unlock all 5 endings: A, B, C, D, and the final true ending of E. I'm still working through this myself, and I plan to do it no question. But this ensures this game's longevity with replayability and mastery of the combat system due to having to play the game at least 3 or 4 times bare minimum. Give it a go, even if it's just to listen to the absolutely stunning soundtrack again. This thing is pure bliss. Overall, at the end of the day, Nier Replicant is an amazing game. It's a remaster/remake that was done right. Sure, it's not perfect, with the padding issues, pacing issues, bait-and-switch fetch quests, some boring elements of the game that breaks immersion, and overused trope of fake-out deaths, but it still completely excels at world and lore building, character development that makes you care for each and every person involved, creative and imaginative boss fights that leave you in absolute awe, blissful soundtrack that has to be one of the best vocal OSTs I've heard in years, and a great combat system that allows the player to play how we want, so that no 2 players will ever play the same. All of these elements that make Nier Replicant as great as it is genuinely outweigh the negatives here, but that's just in my opinion. If you've played Nier Automata and want more background to how that all started, then I implore you to give this game a go. Hell, even if you've never played Automata, this could be your stepping stone to play first, and then getting into it that way. You pick! So enough ramble, you can probably guess what I'm trying to say by now. So with all that said, my verdict is pretty clear. Game & Chick says bye now.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching!
I really hope you enjoyed that review, and I look forward to bringing more to you in the coming future. For new people, feel free to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like or share. And for people already subscribed, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you do not miss out on any future content upload. Also, feel free to click on my other reviews linked above because they're kinda cool too. So, give them a look. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch all you chickadees on the next one.